Hello, I'm Tiffany Keene, and today we'll be doing the lower and upper extremity body movements for the clinical kinesiology class. First, we'll start with the cervical movements, which is the cervical movements around the head and the neck. For cervical flexion, you have the bending of the heads towards the anterior chest. For cervical extension, you're moving it back up to a straight position as if you're in the anatomical position. You're moving the neck backwards. And next we have the right lateral bending, which you're bending the head to the right side laterally towards the hip. The left lateral bending is the same to the left side. You're moving the head laterally that way. Next, you have the right rotation. The rotation is the movement of the bones around the axis, and it will be moving as you're going to lean your head and look over your shoulder. So the right rotation would be moving the head to the right, looking over the right shoulder. The left rotation would be looking over your left shoulder. And next we have the shoulder and hip movements. The hip flexion would be bringing the hip towards the trunk of the body. Extension would be straightening the hip back, the leg back out away from the body. Next we have shoulder abduction and adduction. Shoulder abduction is moving the shoulder away from the midline of the body. Shoulder adduction is adding it back to the midline of the body, bringing it closer back to the midline. Next we have the horizontal abduction and adduction. The horizontal abduction is moving the shoulder backwards away from the body. The horizontal adduction is moving the shoulder back in closer to the body. Then we have the internal and external rotations. The internal rotations, you're moving the anterior part of the arm towards the midline of the body. The external rotation, you're moving the anterior part of the arm away from the midline of the body. Then we have the elbow and the knee movement. For elbow flexion, you're moving the arm and the forearm closer together. For extension, you're moving them further away from each other, decreasing the angle of the joint. For knee flexion, you are bringing the leg and the thigh closer towards one another. For knee extension, you're straightening the knee joint back out, making them further away from each other. We then have the wrist and ankle movements. We have the flexion of the wrist, which would be like the flip of the wrist, moving them downwards. For the ankle flexion, you're going to be moving the toes downwards, pointing them towards the ground. And that was for the flexion. For extension, you're going to be pointing, which is also called the dorsiflexion, you're going to be pointing them upwards. The fingers will be pointed upwards, and the toes will be pointing upwards towards the sky. Next we have supination and pronation. Supination is the palms facing upwards. Pronation is the palms facing downwards. Then we have radial deviation. These would be moving the wrist towards the thumbs. The ulnar deviation is moving it towards the little fingers. Next we have the movement of the digits. We have the flexion, which is closing of the fingers. The extension is extending them back out. We have the abduction and adduction. The abduction, you're going to be spreading the fingers away from the midline, would be your middle finger. You're spreading the fingers away from the midline. Then you have adduction, you're moving the fingers back towards the midline. Then you have thumb opposition, which is a combination of both the flexion and extension, which would be bringing your thumb and little finger together. Thank you.